Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and friends of all ages and all places around the globe and in the universe. Tonight, we are honored to have a guest with a truly diverse and fascinating career. James B. Skip Warren was born in Pennsylvania and raised in Texas, and he's worn many hats from a patrolman with the Austin Police and a successful trial lawyer specializing in maritime law and personal injury, and now a passionate flight instructor. With a lifetime of experiences and wisdom, Skip embodies the spirit of lifelong learning and adaptability. Please join me in welcoming Skip Warren to the show. And there he is, the handsome man in his flight shirt. And behind me is one of Skip's planes. We were just chatting about it before the show. Do you want to tell the audience about that before we dive in?
That's a plane that belongs to a client of mine in the St. Louis area. It was a research plane that Cessna used to develop avionics, and it toured the world to flight shows and so forth as an advertising for Cessna while they built the airplane.
That is so cool. Skip, you have had such a diverse career path from law enforcement to law and now aviation. Can you tell us what initially drew you to these fields?
My brother was a pilot. He learned to fly while we were in high school. He's a year and a half younger than me. Now, our mother never found out about that until much later, or she would have strangled him. But I had flown with him off and on. We grew up in the Texas Panhandle. I went to college in Austin. He went to Houston and went to school down there after he got out of the Army. And so I knew about flying, but it's a real expensive hobby unless you have a use for it. And I had a buddy who I play golf with, and he said, "Hey, I had an airplane, but I sold it, but it's back on the market. I'd like to buy it back, and why don't you and I buy it back, and we'll go places and play golf." So we bought it. I got a pilot's license, and we bought the airplane, and we never once flew anywhere to play golf. Yeah, and I couldn't get along about how to run the airplane, and so we split the sheet, and that was that. But I found out that if you were a flight instructor, that you got to fly around in other people's airplanes, and they bought the gasoline. When gasoline's $7 a gallon, that's really nice. So I've been a flight instructor for 20 years.
Fabulous. But you started off as a patrolman in Austin, Texas in the late
went to college.
60s. Yeah.
I went to college in Austin to go in the Air Force. I did 2 years of Air Force ROTC. Then they gave me a hearing test and said, "No, you're not."
Oh.
And so, among other things, that meant I lost a year of credit. So it took me 5 years to get out of college. And I was studying for a degree in physics. And I had one of those realizations that happens in life sometimes. And I figured out I was not smart enough to be a physicist. I couldn't do the mathematics. That happened about the middle of my third year. And so I was going to have to do something else. My scholarship ran out, and the Austin Police Department had a ride-along program where civilians could ride along in a police car and see what the job was like. And so I signed up and did 4 years with them. And it was the most educational 4 years of my life. You have no idea how happy you are and how good your life is compared to a lot of other people out there. And we got to see all of them.
Ooh. Ooh.
Very educational.
Is there a story from there you want to tell?
No. My wife at that time became ill, and it became clear that we were going to have to, I was going to have to make more money. And what I had learned, being a policeman, was I was making $5 an hour. My last year, I was going to make $10,000 for counting overtime. But I was going into the courtroom, and lawyers making $50 an hour were not beating my traffic tickets. And I said, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. I figured out that if I was a lawyer, I could make a better living. So I quit the police department on Friday and went to law school on Monday. And 27 months later, I was a lawyer.
Brilliant. So, how did your time in law enforcement influence your transition to becoming a trial lawyer?
You get very adept at learning who's lying to you, which
Mm.
is very useful when you're talking to your client, when they're telling their story, and when you're talking to the opposition and they're telling their story. And that's one of the skills that came out of it.
Grace says, "Hello, and have you ever flown an experimental aircraft or homemade plane?"
I don't do flight training or anything in experimental airplanes. They're built in people's garages, and the fatality statistics are just startling on experimental airplanes. The only one I've ever flown in is my brother's. He bought one that had been built and still has it, and I had flown it with him, but he had spent a lot of time in it before I got into it.
Good, good, good.
I stick to certified airplanes.
Understand. I know you do some amazing things with that. We will come back to it. But now, then you specialize in a maritime law and personal injury. What are some of the most memorable or challenging cases you handled in that area?
Um, Very interesting. The only courses I liked in law school were the trial advocacy courses and the maritime law course that I took. So when I got out of law school, I interviewed for a job in maritime law with firms that did maritime law. That meant you went to Corpus Christi, Houston, or Beaumont. And I visited all those and was offered a job in Houston and took it and did 10 years of work here in Houston. Got to do interesting things. I rowed a ship through the Panama Canal one time. That was
Ooh, that's cool.
except for that part where they told me to get off the ship in the middle of the night while it was underway and climb down a rope ladder and get on a pilot boat that was running alongside this 700-foot long tanker. Yeah,
Wow.
that was interesting. That was interesting. And then they said, well, and I said, well, how am I going to get back across Panama to Panama City? He said, well, we're going to get you a driver. So they woke some poor guy up that didn't speak English at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he drove me through the mountains across Panama back to Panama City with me talking to him continuously to make sure he didn't fall asleep.
What an adventure. Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
So, did you find that your background in physics helped you, or not really? Just because.
Well, I was always interested in science and and mechanical things. So ships are mechanical devices. So it was useful in understanding things like that. And well, I had to learn how to read a radar scope, so it was useful like that. But truthfully, the only time I've ever used my degree in physics was on Facebook one time. I explained why your underwear comes out of the dryer inside out.
Oh
And
yeah.
there is a reason for that.
Okay.
It's called entropy. The universe wants to be disordered. And when your underwear was made, it was laid out on the patterns inside out and sewn, and then it was turned the other way for you to wear. So its natural, unorganized position in the universe is inside out.
And actually, we should be wearing them inside out because then the seams wouldn't be against your body.
Yeah, it depends on how much you paid for the underwear. The seams may not matter.
Yes, 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 yes. After decades as a trial lawyer, what made you decide to shift gears and become a flight instructor?
When you're a trial lawyer, what you want to do is go in the courtroom and argue your case in front of a jury. And what I found, and what I recognize to be true generally, is that the older you get, the more experience you get, the bigger the cases that you get and handle, the less and less likely it is that you're actually going to take that case into a courtroom and present it to a jury. The reason being, among other things, I would always ask a client, do you really want the fate of your company to depend upon the judgment of 12 people who were not smart enough to get off jury duty? They usually said, no, let's settle.
Ooh.
There went away my chance to go to the courtroom. And after a few years, it became perfectly clear I was probably never going to set foot in the courtroom again. And so I could afford to quit, so I quit. I quit young. I think I was 53 at the time. And I said, well, I'm just going to play amateur golf tournaments. I grew up on a golf course. My daddy was a golf pro, and that was always my sport. And so I played tournament golf. And I found that it was unfortunately true that the kids I couldn't beat in high school, I couldn't beat when they were in their 50s either. So I said, I got to get a job. I could, and when you're retired in the middle of the week and you're young, there's nobody to play golf with. They're all still working. So anyway, like I said, I had this buddy who wanted to buy his airplane back. So I had always been interested in flying. I had hoped to go in the Air Force, as I said. So I got the flight instructor certificate and started working as a flight instructor. And that's great fun. That's great fun too. You're in an airplane, which is what I love doing, and you're teaching people how to do something that they want to learn how to do, as opposed to teaching a classroom of people who may well not want to be there, and so forth. A couple of big differences between flight instructing and lawyering. One, it doesn't pay as well.
Really?
Really. And two, the biggest difference that I've noticed over time is when you're a lawyer, a trial lawyer in particular, everyone you deal with is unhappy. Your client is unhappy because they've been sued. Your opposition is unhappy because you won't roll over and pay them money. The judge is unhappy because you won't go out in the hall and settle the case, and he's going to have to deal with it. And then when you get done with the case and you send your client a bill, they bitch because the bill's too big. Everybody you deal with is unhappy. Now, when you've got someone who wants to learn to fly, they're in a good mood. They're happy. They may even already own an airplane, and they may be stepping up. But what I do is step people up into higher performance airplanes. They're in a good mood. They actually think I know more than they do. They're willing to learn, and we usually have a real good time at it. So it's a much nicer climate to be in.
Oh, you answered my next question perfectly. Was what's the most rewarding thing about teaching people to fly? I'm thinking it's right there with nice people up in the skies watching the billowing clouds.
Now, I'll tell you, the clouds are wonderful. The clouds are one of the really pretty things that you run into up there. And yeah, I feel a great sense of satisfaction. Take a great sense of satisfaction away from teaching someone to be a safe pilot, because as soon as I'm done with them, they're going to go and put their family in that airplane and go somewhere. And I don't want to lose sleep over that. So far, none of the hundreds of people that I have taught have I had to talk to the Federal Aviation Administration about, nor have I had to read about in the newspaper. So I'm very interested in keeping that record clean.
Didn't you do some teaching recently in Germany?
That got canceled. The Germans could not agree upon a date. So yes, three of us had been invited to come to Germany and give a presentation that we had just given to a bunch of Columbia airplane owners here in Texas. It happened to be a German, the head of the German Columbia Owners Club was there, and he invited us to come, and we talked about it for months and months. And then finally I got word, no, we're not going. I'd already spent 3 months on Duolingo trying to learn enough German to get by. So
Sprechen Sie Deutsch. Grace had a couple of questions. Grace Cavalieri, what have you done that you like to do? What's left to explore? What have you not done that you like to do? What's left to explore?
I want to go to Iceland and see an active volcano, because I had a volcanologist in a geology course in college. I want to see an active volcano. I want to go to Norway or Sweden and see the Aurora Borealis. And I'd love to go to New Zealand and Australia. So
beautiful.
Travel plans.
Yeah, I've been to Iceland, but the volcano wasn't exploring, but I did see Bora Bora. So I got 2 of yours there. Now flying is on my bucket list too.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so fun. That is so fun. I want to say a shout out to Eric B. Flanor. He's here. He said, "Did you say 12 people who aren't smart enough to get out of jury duty?"
Yes, I did say 12 people who are not smart enough to get out of jury duty. So you don't, people think that you pick a jury. The process is you throw people off the panel that you don't want on the jury, and what's left becomes your jury. So if you can show a bias or a prejudice or prior knowledge of the case of the people, you can get someone off the jury panel. But you only have a limited number of opportunities to take people off, and then eventually there's 12 people left, and that's who does your jury. So if they're not smart enough to know how to give a bad answer, or worse yet, if there's someone who really wants to be on a jury for whatever reasons, and there are people like that, that's what you're left with. So,
Well, flying can be risky just like law. How do you teach and emphasize the importance of safety in aviation? You said you got a perfect record. Let's keep it that way. So you're doing something amazing.
flying is not dangerous. Unsafe flying is dangerous. Airplanes are very simple. You push the throttle forward, it'll take off. It's a little trickier to land, and that takes some practice and so forth. But many of the accidents, and I still do keep track of accident statistics. A lot of the accidents happen. We call them stupid pilot tricks. People are doing things with an airplane that aren't going from A to B. They're flying. They're showing off. They're flying over their neighbor's house and fly too low and so forth. Or they fly into bad weather, and they fly. Or the dumbest mistakes are the people who are not qualified to fly in clouds, in weather. They're called VFR only pilots, visual flight rule only pilots, and they turn around and fly into clouds. And the statistics on that are really bad. They've done some studies, 90 seconds after you fly into IFR conditions, instrument flight rule conditions, you've lost control of the airplane. Everybody does.
Ooh.
That's why a lot of the training I like to do is instrument training, where I teach people to fly in the clouds. And it can be done. You just rely on the instruments that are in the plane. But if you don't have that training and you choose to fly into clouds, we're going to read about you. So I teach people that have to respect the airplane, that flying isn't dangerous, but neglectful flying and stupid flying, that's dangerous. We lose 400 or more general aviation pilots a year, and we have for decades. And many of them are from stupid pilot tricks. So luckily, I haven't had many students that I thought were capable of doing something like that. That is, they didn't have respect for flying and respect for the airplane. And so far, none of them have made the papers.
Whew. Lindsay Harper says, "Sounds like you've led a very interesting life. I'm glad you found a way to do what you love." That's so nice, Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm very happy that I've been able to stumble through life in a way that's been enjoyable, and I have enjoyed it. Still do.
Great stumbler. Your guiding principle is life is what happens to you while you're waiting for it to turn out the way you had it planned. Can you
Exactly.
elaborate on that philosophy and how it
Well,
shaped life?
just like I said, I was going to go in the Air Force. No, you're not going in the Air Force. Okay, I'll be a policeman. Yeah, you can't afford to be a policeman anymore. Okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. I want to be a trial lawyer. Okay, that's good. Well, now you can't try cases anymore. Now you got to find something else to do. So it's been left, right, left, right. It's been fun.
What is the biggest life lesson that you've learned throughout your careers?
Wake up in the morning and think about what you had on your to-do list and realize that you're probably not going to get all the way through it, and something else is going to come up. It's always going to be an interesting day.
Agreed. It's so exciting.
It is. Absolutely.
So, Skip, how do you handle stress and challenges in high stakes situations, whether in law or aviation or life?
You take the stress out of flying by making sure that you are following the procedures, that you're doing it. You're not trying to invent anything in the airplane. They're checklists with pages and pages of things to do in the order in which you do them and so forth. And you learn the proper procedures and you follow the proper procedures. And airplanes don't just fall out of the sky. They don't break, wings don't come off unless you fly it into a thunderstorm, but that's a stupid pilot trick. So a strong reliance on training and following the procedures that you've been taught, that I taught you, that I made you learn out of the pilot operating handbook, which is a thick book, yay big, that goes with every airplane, that tells you how to operate the airplane. So, and when you do that, that takes the stress out of it. You know that there's a way out of whatever situation you're in, and there's a procedure for it, and there usually is. Then it's not very stressful. Haven't been scared many times in the airplane. Occasionally, someone will do something that was completely out of left field. I have a couple of occasions that they caught, my heart rate jumped up, but
Ooh.
yeah, but not many.
As a seasoned trial lawyer, you worked on class action suits. How did those cases impact the way you approach problem solving in other areas of your life, like stupid pilots?
Well, I spent a large portion I spent 20 years of my 28 years doing defense work, where I was defending companies against lawsuits. And then the last 5, 6, 7 years, I spent prosecuting cases. And the biggest one I worked on was a class action case involving polybutylene plumbing. Polybutylene is a waste product that an oil company came out of the bottom of their refinery as a waste product when they were refining other chemicals. And someone got the bright idea, hey, we could squeeze this stuff out into pipe, and it would be very lightweight and flexible, and it could be used in manufactured housing. And it was sold to manufacturers of manufactured housing, trailers. The problem with that product and the fittings that went along with it to connect it up was it worked really well until you put hot water in it, and then it dissolved. And the floor of your trailer home fell out because they're all made with pressed board. So there was a huge lawsuit that went on for years, and we ultimately got a very nice arrangement where money was hundreds of millions of dollars was set aside for people to recover damage claims when they had leakage from that product. And that was great fun, but it was another one of those, and it was basically the last large lawsuit I worked on. It became obvious fairly early on that case was never going to go to trial. It was simply too big, and went in too many directions, and we prepared it to go to trial, but we knew that it wasn't going to go, because cases that large don't ever go to trial. They always get arbitrated or mediated or agreed settlements. And so that was the last large case I worked on.
That was the biggie.
One of the other more interesting cases, which didn't end as successfully, you remember the Branch Davidians?
No.
In Waco, Texas?
Oh, yes.
Well, our firm represented a number of the survivors of a number of the family members of people who died. And we were unsuccessful in persuading the judge. We couldn't get a jury. We were unsuccessful in persuading the judge that it really isn't a good idea to take an Abrams tank and knock down the building that the people are in when you get tired of waiting for them to come out. It was a sad deal. It was a sad deal. It was a true cult, and a crazy leader. And he burned the building down around him while the tank was knocking the building down. So anyway,
Okay, let's move on to
Let's
something.
move on to lighter.
Yes. How has your relationship with the beautiful Charlotte Frost influenced your career and personal life?
Well, she influenced my personal life because we were an office scandal. She worked in my law firm years and years and years ago, and we became an office scandal, and it's only lasted now for 30 some odd years.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, but she was a very good at national reputation trial lawyer, defending products. Spent a lot of time in a lot of courtrooms, actually trying cases, defending asbestos companies against asbestos litigation, and that's a loser from a defense point of view. Anytime you walk in the courtroom with an asbestos case, representing a defendant, everyone's expecting you to lose, and she didn't lose them all. She did not,
she's
and
brilliant.
she finally threw in the towel. I think the bed bugs in the Los Angeles hotel convinced her that it was about time for her to quit traveling. So she retired a few years ago and took up the writing of books. So she is an author now, with the Frogville series of children's books, and a book on for the legal profession called Power at the Table, that teaches people how to get and keep business. Because when you're a lawyer in a law firm and it comes time to decide who gets the money, the people who have the clients get the money. And so you need to develop as a lawyer how to get clients and how to keep clients, so that you have power at the table at the end of the year when we split up the proceeds. And I can assure you, you are not taught that in law school. No one teaches you anything about business and business management and firm management in law school. Law school teaches you how to think about problems. It doesn't teach you how to hire secretaries and how to fire associates who aren't producing, and how to balance the books and things like that. I managed a law firm for a while, and I didn't have any training beforehand. I learned a lot on the job, and you are not taught that in law school.
You have something more valuable: common
Yeah.
sense,
Common sense,
truth,
and
scruples, caring,
yep,
honesty,
yep.
and doing the right thing.
Those are essential. The only thing you have to sell is your time, and many times the best thing that recommends you is your reputation for doing the right thing, doing what you said you were going to do, doing the ethical thing, and that's what lawyers aspire to, at least most of them.
Well, she is wonderful. We have a picture of her. I met Skip and Charlotte in Orlando, Florida, at a mastermind with Craig Dosslet and Ken Walls a couple of years. How long ago? Before the pandemic? What was that?
2 years. No, 2 years ago, I think.
So
It's
Eric,
maybe
Eric,
3 years.
the picture. Look how that handsome man in the middle, and Charlotte's on the. I'm looking at it. It would be on my far left. And we have our lovely ladies here. Does everyone remember their name? I think it's Shanti, me, you. The lady who had her birthday, we had a beautiful 80th birthday for her. Hone and Marilyn.
Yep.
And this was a really great event where we get to know everybody. And Charlotte gave a great presentation. So I knew she already had leadership skills and was amazing. And I had only known her for 5 minutes. We got so much out of this, we went back again, and we even did more presentations, and she wowed me even more, as did Skip's gentle, nurturing, beautiful, quiet, but yet presence in the room. So we became friends, and then we did it again to the Ken and Glenn show, Glenn Morshower and Ken Walls in Dallas, Texas. Yes?
Dallas, Texas.
And that was very fun. We went to the first one, and then the second one, Charlotte Frost spoke about her books. And then the second book or third book was coming. Let me see. I have Princesses, Queen. What else you got there? The latest one that she talked about was a Quest for a Sword.
Quest for a Sword. Quest for a Princess. Yeah.
I've got Princess, Quest of a Queen.
Yes.
And I didn't read the law, the table of power one that she had written first.
Power at the table.
Power at the table.
Mhm.
I think that would be a good one for you to pick up, especially if you are a lawyer thinking about law or just want to know more about how the game is played. And I
Or
think
and anyone in the business, in a business that requires you to obtain and keep clients. How do you get clients? For your law practice, for your plumbing business, for your CPA business, the general principles involved are all the same, and they involve everyday work. And that's what the book teaches you how to do.
discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would cover everybody. And they're available on Amazon.
All of them are available on Amazon. The Frogville series and Power at the Table.
So you can pick it up there. What advice would you give to someone considering a career in law or in aviation?
In law is a very logical thinking business. If you enjoy puzzles, if you enjoy problems, if you enjoy logic, if you enjoy, and you have to be a people person if you're going to do anything other than be an office lawyer, shuffling papers, real estate, business transactions. If you want to do anything like being a litigator, you have to be good with people, and you have to be really good at figuring out and explaining things. The advice I always give young trial lawyers, you've got a case, you're going to present it to a jury. You need to be able to describe your side of the case in terms that your grandmother could understand. And if you can't, you have no chance of explaining it sufficiently to these 12 people sitting in this box. And the truth, as I said, you don't have a lot of chief financial officers and company owners and sitting in that jury box. They have other things to do, and they find ways not to be present in there. So yeah, it's very logically related. I mean, law school exams are, here's a problem, identify 15 issues that have to be dealt with this problem, and how would you deal with those particular issues? So you're a problem solver. People come to you because they messed up, or someone has messed up for them, or on them, or to them, and you need to find out on how it happened and who's really at fault, and is there some way to recompense for whatever wrong has been done. So you're looking at life situations and picking out issues and dealing with them.
Grace Cavalieri wants to know, do you think our court systems have integrity?
Yes, I do.
Good.
We don't have a problem with the court system in that regard. I mean, the judges, I mean, we're a state. Texas is a state where we elect our judges. So they're Democrat judges or they're Republican judges, and they basically switch back and forth. And so there may be some bias shown, but they're generally legitimate. They're supposed to be Caesar's wife. They're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to not be involved. If they find a case in front of them that they know something about, they're supposed to recuse themselves, take themselves out of it. And most of them will do that. If nothing else, the lawyers will make them do that. So I'm not worried about the integrity of the system. And jurors usually get it right.
Excellent.
They're
like
very,
yes.
they're very good at listening to someone talk and say, no, that's BS. I don't believe that. They have very good detectors for that.
Charla Frost, your girlfriend, won a big award in the last couple of years by her peers.
Yes. And I'll have to ask her. She's sitting right here. I'll have to ask her, which one will you be referring to?
I know there's so many. For real, there is. But this one she was particularly proud of when I interviewed her. You, ladies and gentlemen, you can go back and catch Charlotte Frost's interview with me. I'm not sure which one it was, about a year ago or so.
She tells me it was the Chambers Roundtable Spotlight Award. Chambers is in the business of rating lawyers and law firms, and they picked her out because of her trial experience and her success in her trial experience and her reputation from her peers. Well, that's who they ask about it. I mean, if they pick a good lawyer, who do you ask? You ask another lawyer.
I think that's what made it so special for her, is that it was done by her peers.
Her
Because
peers.
that is really the ultimate compliment in any field.
That's what you aim for. You want your peers, even your opponents. You want them to respect you for who you are as a lawyer. So yes, she's quite honored.
What role has mentorship played in your journey, Skip?
Well, I didn't have a mentor in the legal practice that I would particularly point to. I had, while I was learning to be a flight instructor, I had a gentleman who was the head of the company I worked for 5 years, who taught me a lot about how you go about making sure that everything gets covered when you're training someone. I mean, we have a whole list of topics that they need to be taught, and they will be examined on before they're given a license by the government and so forth. So I don't do any mentorship in the terms of mentorship to flight instructors, but I think that what I do, I'll train someone to fly an airplane like this one behind you. And quite often I will invite them to, every 6 months, give me a call and we'll get back together and we'll fly for an afternoon and we'll fix the things that have become bad habits or things that you have figured out that you don't know how to do well enough and so forth. So it's a continuing relationship, not so much mentorship when I'm talking about it. And I have a number of clients like that I fly with periodically. I have one gentleman, his insurance company got after him because he didn't fly enough. And so every Wednesday that we're both in Houston, we fly somewhere and have lunch. And that keeps his insurance company happy. And he keeps up to date because he knows that I'm going to poke him in the shoulder when he does something wrong. So
that's delightful.
So I have a relationship like that.
I love it.
It's great fun.
All the mentors out there should touch base back with their people and see how they're doing and update them.
Absolutely.
That makes you my number one mentor right now.
and I tell each of them that they're now on my list of people whose texts or emails I will always answer. And I get texts or emails. I tell them, don't bother to call me because I'm probably in an airplane somewhere. But I get texts or emails from people 5 years ago out of nowhere. I haven't heard from them in 5 years. And here comes a question, which I'm happy to answer and so forth. And I'm happy that they know enough to ask. I mean, you really need to know what you don't know when you're flying an airplane. So I have a number of, I have probably a half dozen of those inquiries a week from past clients.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So guys, keep on learning, keep on asking questions, and don't forget about your old instructors.
Careful with that old.
Your most knowledgeable instructors with great wisdom of the friendly skies.
Yes. I'm trying to collect those tidbits of wisdom over the last 20 years, and I'm actually working on a book that will be titled something like The Care and Feeding of Your Columbia Airplane, and it will be the tips and tricks and things that I have come across in the years of teaching in that particular airplane.
Oh,
So
that's
that,
excellent. Do you mostly focus on the Colombian airplanes?
yes, I spend, well, I'm certified to fly to teach in Cirrus airplanes. I'm certified to fly in any propeller airplane that isn't a turboprop, and that covers hundreds of thousands of airplanes. But I specialize in the Columbia. I own a Columbia airplane. We own a Columbia airplane that we use to travel back and forth from Houston and the ranch where we are in Oklahoma. So it's my favorite airplane, and I'm very familiar with it. So, and I stay busy enough teaching people in Columbia airplanes that I don't really have to hunt for other. I don't advertise at all. It's all word of mouth. I think in the month of August, I flew with clients 15 out of 30 days. And that doesn't count traveling back and forth to them and so forth. So, and they're all Columbians, which is a wonderful airplane. Unfortunately, Cessna decided to quit making them back in 2017. So they're not exactly an orphan airplane yet, but I stay plenty busy with them.
That sounds fabulous. But if you're always in the air, how do you take care of the hogs on your ranch?
Let me explain my involvement in the cattle ranch here. I eat a lot of steak,
Mm.
and that's it.
Mm.
Cows are big, dumb, mean, and dangerous. I don't have anything to do with them. we hire people to do that.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. As someone with decades of experience, what are your thoughts on how the legal and aviation industries have evolved over the years?
The aviation industry has evolved technologically amazingly, even in the time that I have been flying. There are now systems that you can get in a general aviation means everything other than airliners or charter companies. So most of the airplanes you see are general aviation airplanes. There are now systems in those airplanes that you can buy that will land the airplane for you.
Yeah, I've been hearing.
It'll pick an airport, it'll go to the airport, it'll land the airplane, it'll put the brakes on, and all you had to do was, it's designed to handle emergencies if you become unable to fly the airplane. But that technology, and 20 years ago, if you told people that was going to be in their next airplane, they would have laughed at you. They now have moving map displays on screens in airplanes now. You can't get lost. There are systems that tell you when you're getting low on fuel so you can't run out of gas, which was a common way for people to have aviation accidents, to mismanage their fuel or to run out of fuel. You can't do that anymore. So airplanes have become much, much safer because of what I call the nanny systems in them. They're looking out for you. They're making sure that you don't do a stupid pilot trick. In the law, technology again, and remember, I retired right around the turn of the century, so it's been a while. In the law, technology again, we used to have to dictate on a belt dictaphone a tape that we gave to a secretary who typed it and brought it back, and we signed it and gave it to a runner who took it to the courthouse and filed it. They don't do that anymore.
Mm-mm.
Lawyers sit at their computer, pull up a form, fill it in, send it, it's gone. And it goes into the district clerk's office. And if you were to show up with paper pleadings and try to file them up there, they're not going to take them. They don't want their file drawers full of your paperwork. They want it online. So that's what's happened. Also, about Zoom, and of course we're on StreamYard now. Witnesses can testify from a distance.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, under some circumstances and by agreement they can. And everything is now, when they used to take depositions, you used to get this booklet, this transcript, and you had to read through it. Now they videotape everything. And they don't even do it with videotape anymore. They send you a thumb drive, and now you've got the video of the testimony and the testimony. So your file room doesn't have to be near as big as it used to be, because the simple weight of paperwork that you had to deal with back in the day was just overwhelming sometimes. Not a problem anymore. No.
Good one. What keeps you passionate about learning and teaching at this stage in your life?
Well, one of the real reasons I took up instructing was I thought it would make me a better pilot. If I had to stay on top of everything and be able to explain it to everyone, then I had to understand it well enough that I wasn't going to make any of those mistakes. So, and it's true that airplanes continue to evolve. Avionics continues to change and evolve, and I have to learn how to do this piece of equipment so that I can explain it to the new pilot. So it's not. There are plenty of things to keep up on, and the rules change occasionally, and the certification rules to become a pilot or to get an instrument rating, they change occasionally. So there's always something new to learn. And I've always told all students that if you don't have a book or a magazine relating to flying on your bedside table, you're not keeping up. And when I mean it, you really have to. Everything is going. The big argument now that's going around is there's a lot of concern about leaded gasoline. Airplanes are the only equipment running around now that still uses leaded gasoline. And there's a big move starting in California to make it illegal to have leaded gasoline in your airplane. Well, you just told a couple of 100,000 airplane owners, your fuel is not going to be available anymore. What are you going to do? And no one has a good solution for that yet. So that's the big legal argument that's going on now about general aviation. And because my airplane will not run on unleaded gasoline. There is no, the technological part is companies have tried to develop a gasoline that doesn't require lead to do what the leaded gasoline that we use does, and no one has been successful yet. So there is no alternative right now. But states are beginning to pass laws saying you can't sell this. You can't sell leaded gasoline after 2030, 5 years from now.
Ooh.
And the law in the book, if I'm an FBO owner, a fixed base operator, if I'm someone on an airport that sells gasoline and the state of California says I can't sell unleaded gasoline, I'm not going to sell unleaded gasoline. Of course, I'm going to go out of business shortly thereafter because no one's going to come to my airport and no one's going to buy the gasoline that I can't sell. So that's currently where we are in general aviation. And I don't know what the answer is going to be. Now, luckily, I'm old enough, I may quit flying before they get around to a solution. But there is not a solution on the horizon yet.
5 years comes quick.
5 years comes really quick. And when you get to be my age, it comes quicker than you can possibly imagine.
What's the most rewarding part of your post-retirement career here? Not
I have failed retirement big time. As I said, I flew 15 days last month. That's half time and not counting travel. So I'm very happy that I'm still able to do it. And that my health is held, and that I still have plenty of business to keep me as busy as I want to be. So that's been the nicest part about it.
It's fabulous. Living your life to the fullest.
Absolutely.
Can you share a memorable or funny story from your time in the courtroom or while flying?
Let me see. I could tell you about the case involving the penile implant company, if you wanted to hear that one.
Well, that sounds intriguing.
I represented a company called American Medical Systems, a wonderful company, and they had a genius who started the company, and he was a specialist and he was a urologist, and he was developing a device to help incontinence, a ring device that could be inflated and it would stop the flow of urine. So you didn't have incontinence. And one day he figured out that if you took this round thing and you straightened it out like that, you might be able to make something to help with erectile dysfunction. So he did. He invented this wonderful device and sold it, and people bought it. Surgeons implanted it, and it worked. And I had a case where a gentleman had the surgery, and it failed. It leaked. It's a hydraulic system. And he went right back to the surgeon, and they repaired it. And then, half a year later, it failed again, and he went back. And so he sued the company, claiming it was a defective product. And we went to trial on that case. In fact, I think that's the last actual case I really went to the courtroom on. The jury consisted of 10 women and 2 men. And the testimony from the man and his wife was that they had need of this device every day of every month. And I presented that testimony to the jury as no way. Okay. No way. And I've got women sitting in the jury panel shaking their head like this. Well, the verdict came back a defense verdict. They concluded 10-2, and you can guess where the 10-2 was. The 10 women all said no way. And we had a jury consultant go back and contact these people later to find out what it was they did and didn't like about it, and whether they believed the people that they had need of this thing 30 days a month. And they said, no. We believed them. We just think they wore it out.
But
and my response was, I'll take it as a win. I'll take it as a win.
That's a good one.
That was a good one. That was a fun case. And I sent my bill to the client, and the client bitched because it was too much.
Of course.
And they asked, and I remember that, I will never forget, they asked me, this says that you worked 8 hours on the Sunday before trial started. Did you really work 8 hours on Sunday before the trial started? No, I worked 12. I just charged you for 8. And by the way, we won. Pay the bill.
For real. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. This has been so much fun. Looking back at your career and your life experiences, what do you feel most proud of, and what advice would you give the younger generation?
I am most proud that I have been able to keep Miss Charla happy for 30 some odd years.
Woohoo!
And I would, for the younger generation, I would say, one, you have to show up and go to work, because people notice when you don't. And that's one of the things that has changed about the legal career. People come out of law school expecting to make a big salary and not having to work for it. And that's not exactly the way it works. A lawyer only has time to sell. The young people, I would tell, realize that you do, in fact, have to work for a living, and find someone that's compatible and do your damnedest to keep them happy.
That sounds so beautiful. Actually, Grace has a question. What's next for you to do?
I'm actually trying to say no occasionally to people who want me to train them so that I can play more golf. And it isn't working out. It isn't working out.
You have to make a requirement that they have to play golf in order to get trained, and then you can go fly around to those golf courses.
That I may have to incorporate that. That might work. That might work.
Well, please tell Miss Charlotte that I send my love and give her hugs, and I look forward to her next book. And I'm so wonderful to have you on the show today. It was absolutely thrilling. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we'll look for your book. When's your date for that?
I'm trying to get it done by the end of the year.
End of the year? Perfect.
We'll see.
End of the year. Okay. Make a wonderful Christmas present if you.
Yeah.
December is a good month for books. I used to get my dad a few books. He had enough ties, and then he stopped wearing them, right?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about retirement. You don't have to wear a tie anymore. Just funerals and weddings.
funerals and weddings, and hopefully we don't go to too many funerals, although it happens. But I'm so glad that you are living your best life, and I am thrilled that you were here. Thank you so much. So everyone share this out. Look for it. If you want any tidbits, go back and listen to it again. Like and share it. And thank you so much. See you next Wednesday at the same time, Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you. Be good. Make wise choices.